At the dinner table, surrounded by friends and family, he leaned close. His whisper sliced through the clatter of forks. "She's better than you." The room kept eating, but my heart froze. What he didn't know was that the cameras had heard him too. The restaurant was one of those upscale places that pretend intimacy with low lights and velvet booths, but charge you double for water. We sat at a long table, his colleagues, their spouses, laughter echoing louder than the wine deserved. I had dressed carefully that night, a black dress that hugged without shouting, earrings that caught light but not attention. I wanted to be the woman who made him proud. Instead, I was the woman he used as a stage. When the waiter placed entrees in front of us, Daniel leaned close, smiling outward but speaking inward. His lips brushed my ear. "She's better than you." I froze, fork halfway to my plate. "Who?" I whispered back, though my gut already knew. He didn't answer. He just lifted his glass in a toast to some story being told across the table, the performance seamless, like he hadn't just gutted me with 5 words. I sat still, heat crawling up my neck. Around us, conversation flowed, about promotions, vacations, weekend plans. To them, we were the polished couple at the center. To me, we were a set about to collapse. Then, like fate's cruel trick, she laughed. The woman seated diagonally across. Claire, his new co-worker. Blonde waves, diamond smile, the kind of charm that fills a room effortlessly. My stomach tightened. He kept stealing glances at her, and every time his whisper grew heavier in my mind. "She's better than you." But Daniel had forgotten something. Our home security system. The cameras he insisted on installing in the dining room for safety. Always recording, always listening. And I remembered, with icy clarity, that this dinner had begun at our house. Drinks and appetizers before moving to the restaurant. He had whispered more than once that evening, and one of those whispers, I knew, was caught on tape. I didn't need to confront him here. Not yet, not at a table full of colleagues, but the footage was waiting, and soon he would hear himself. Back home, the night clung to me like smoke. Daniel slipped his tie loose, humming as if nothing had happened. He poured himself a drink, kissed my cheek like a husband in a commercial, and disappeared into his office. I stood in the living room, staring at the little black eye in the corner, the security camera. Always on, always watching. His idea, his pride. "It makes us safer," he had said. He never imagined it would make me stronger. I sat down, laptop open, logged into the feed. The timeline stretched before me, grey with hours, red with motion. I scrolled back to earlier that evening when colleagues had filled our dining room for cocktails before the restaurant. There he was, captured in crystal clarity, laughing too loudly, refilling Claire's glass before mine, touching her wrist when she joked about work stress. My stomach turned, but I kept watching. Then the whisper, the same tilt of his head, the same smirk half hidden from the group. His voice, low but clear through the microphone. "She's better than you." The words crawled through the speakers and into me again. But this time I wasn't frozen. This time I was recording, saving, duplicating. Proof turned into ammunition. I clicked further along, more footage. Daniel helping Claire with her coat, his hand lingering just a beat too long. Claire laughing nervously, glancing around to see if anyone noticed. They noticed. The camera noticed. And now I did too. Footsteps behind me. I slammed the laptop shut. Daniel leaned against the doorway, drink in hand, hair tousled like he'd already forgotten the evening. "What are you doing up?" he asked casually. "Just cleaning up," I lied, forcing a smile. He walked closer, kissed the top of my head, oblivious. "You were perfect tonight," he murmured. "Everyone adored you." I swallowed the bitter taste in my throat. Perfect. To the room, maybe. To him? A punchline. When he went upstairs, I reopened the laptop, pressed play again, watched his betrayal in high definition, and as the seconds rolled, a plan began to form. If he could humiliate me with whispers, then I would answer with echoes, his own voice, his own words, played back where no one could deny them. Sleep wouldn't come. Betrayal has a sound, like a faucet left dripping in another room. At 1:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. Claire Morales. Not a number. A message request. I'm sorry about tonight. Can we talk? Privately. I won't text again if you say no. I stared at the screen, hearing Daniel's whisper replay itself in the wired dark. She's better than you. I almost let pride delete the message. Instead, I typed, tomorrow, 8 a.m., Grady's on 5th. No one else. At Grady's, the city still wore last night's mascara. Claire arrived without the diamonded laugh, without the room-filling ease. She looked tired, human. She wrapped both hands around her cup before meeting my eyes. I'm not sleeping with your husband, she said before the foam settled. I never have. I never will. I held her stare. He told me at our table that you're better than me. Her mouth tightened. He told me I should be you. I blinked. Come again? She exhaled, a long, brittle sound. He's been crossing lines, comments, late-night messages about mentorship that were really about proximity. I shut him down. Last week, I told him I'd go to HR if it continued. Tonight, he refilled my glass and touched my wrist because he wanted an audience. He wanted you to see it and blame me, she swallowed. He's trying to make me the problem you leave him over. The cafe noise receded. My plan, revenge via playback, suddenly felt small next to the shape of what she was describing. Not an affair, but leverage. A man using comparison like a leash. I slid my laptop across the table and cued the clip from our dining room. Daniel's head tilt, the smirk, the whisper, landing like a bruise. She's better than you. Then 10 minutes later, the coat, his hand lingering, Claire shifting away. I watched her face as she watched herself. When the frame caught her subtle recoil, her jaw flexed. I filed with HR this afternoon, she said softly. I didn't want to blindside you, but I won't be his next rehearsal for power. If you're willing, that audio helps prove pattern. I thought I knew the role Claire played in my story. Turns out she'd been cast without consent. What do you want from me? I asked. Not permission to burn your life down, she said. Just the truth, yours and mine. And maybe a witness. The camera had caught more than a whisper. It had caught a choreography. His reach, her retreat, my stillness. The triangle wasn't a love story. It was a power map. I walked home in a wind that felt corrective. In the doorway, Daniel was on a call, voice pitched low, the tone men use when they want to sound both reasonable and right. He clicked off when he saw me. Morning, he said, too bright. Everything okay? Depends, I said, setting my keys down so gently the sound still cut him. On whether HR calls today or tomorrow. His smile faltered. What? Claire filed, I said, and I have footage. He laughed, a small, frightened sound dressed as arrogance. Footage of what? Me being charming. You're really going to... Footage of you touching a colleague who told you to stop, I said, not raising my voice, not needing to. Footage of you whispering to your wife that another woman is better. Footage that shows a pattern, Daniel. HR loves patterns. He stared at me like I'd changed languages. You'd ruin my career over a misunderstanding? I won't ruin anything, I said. Your choices did that. I'm just done pretending the leak in the ceiling is rain. His phone buzzed. He didn't look. He didn't have to. The ringtone he set for his boss. The color draining from his face before he even answered told me enough. I stepped aside to the dining room, the scene of the crime, the sanctuary of my receipts, and opened the laptop. I cued the clip to the exact second his mouth shaped the knife. Not for social media, not for a public stoning, for something more surgical. Tonight, I said, family dinner. Your mother, your sister, my brother, 2 people who think we're fine. We'll eat, and then we'll watch this together. You can call it humiliation if you want. I'll call it context. He shook his head, smile sliding into a sneer. You've always loved an audience. You chose the cameras, I said. I'm just choosing where they point. As he retreated to his office, phone already to his ear, the house felt different. Same walls, new gravity. I texted Claire, I'll send the audio to HR. If they try to bury it, I won't. She replied with a single word, thank you. The plot twist had arrived early, clean as a cut. Claire wasn't the affair. She was the witness. The enemy wasn't the other woman. It was the oldest thing, contempt couched as comparison, power disguised as charm. I pressed play one more time, not to hurt myself, but to memorize the cadence of his cruelty. When people ask why you left, you should know the note the symphony went wrong on. That night the table would be set, not for spectacle, for accountability, and the soundtrack would be a whisper that finally had to answer to the room. The dining room looked ordinary, candles, polished cutlery, the same oak table where birthdays had once been celebrated. But under the surface it was a stage. I had set each place card with intention. Daniel at the head, his mother to his left, his sister opposite me, my brother beside her. Family who believed in the fiction of us. Daniel poured wine as though it were a performance, smiling too wide, talking too fast. To family, he said, raising his glass. His mother beamed, oblivious, while my brother clinked politely. I let the toast hang unanswered. Conversation rolled. Promotions, vacations, his sister's new apartment. Daniel laughed in all the right places, touched my shoulder once, twice, his fingertips performing tenderness. I felt every lie like static in the air. When the plates were cleared, I stood. "Before dessert," I said, my voice steady. "I want to share something." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Nora, maybe later." I shook my head. "Now." I carried my laptop to the center of the table. With a single click, the room filled with a familiar hum, the ambient audio of our home security system. His mother tilted her head, curious. My brother leaned forward. On screen, the footage began. Our dining room days earlier, crowded with guests. Daniel refilling Claire's glass, his hand brushing her wrist. Then, the whisper. His head tilting toward me, his smirk, the words slithering out. "She's better than you." The silence at the table cracked like porcelain. His mother's hand flew to her mouth. His sister whispered, "Oh my God." My brother turned sharply, his jaw clenched. Daniel surged to his feet. "This is out of context." I hit pause. The frozen image showed his hand lingering on Claire's coat, her shoulders stiff with discomfort. "Is that out of context too?" I asked. His sister's face darkened. "You've been harassing her," Daniel stammered, sweat breaking across his forehead. "It was nothing. Jokes, misunderstandings." "Misunderstandings don't whisper cruelty in your wife's ear," I said. "And they don't force your colleague to file with HR." His mother's eyes filled with tears, shaking her head. "Daniel, how could you?" The walls had turned jury, no escape hatch, no polished grin to charm his way out. Every member of that table had once defended him, excused him, believed in him. Now they sat as witnesses. I closed the laptop softly. "This is the last meal we share as husband and wife," I said. "From here, I rebuild without whispers." Daniel collapsed back into his chair, hollowed out, his performance dismantled. The candles flickered, casting shadows over his bowed head. For the first time in months, maybe years, I tasted freedom. The room didn't reset after the footage stopped. The candles still burned, plates still sat stacked neatly on the sideboard, but the air was fractured, full of shards no one could sweep away. Daniel's mother broke first. "You humiliated her in your own home, in our home." Her voice cracked, half fury, half heartbreak. He lifted his hands, palms out, as though surrender were a shield. "It wasn't like that. I was drunk, careless, a stupid joke." "A joke doesn't file an HR report," I said. My words landed like stones. His sister shook her head, disgust curling her lip. "You've always been like this, Daniel. Thinking charm fixes rot." My brother sat silent, jaw tight, until he leaned forward, arms on the table. "If you ever speak to her like that again, it won't be HR you'll have to deal with." His tone was calm, but the weight of it pressed the room into silence. Daniel looked around the table, searching for an ally. No one offered him one. He turned to me, eyes desperate. "We can work through this. Please, don't let one mistake." "One!" My laugh was sharp, humorless. "You didn't just insult me. You compared me. You made me feel like a placeholder in my own life, and you did it with an audience, knowing I couldn't fight back. That isn't one mistake. That's contempt." His mother wiped her eyes. I raised you better. Daniel dropped his gaze, shoulders hunched. For the first time, the arrogance was gone. What remained was a man stripped of the scaffolding of admiration. I stood, sliding my chair back quietly. "I'm done here." He lurched up. "Where are you going?" "Forward," I said simply. I picked up my coat, the laptop tucked firmly under my arm. Proof, memory, weapon, whatever I needed it to be. His sister rose to hug me, whispering, "Don't look back." My brother followed me out, steady as a bodyguard. On the porch, the night was cold, honest. Behind us, Daniel's voice rose, pleading with the family that had just become his jury. I didn't turn. My brother asked softly, "What's next?" I breathed in the night, the city lights blinking like new constellations. "Next, I tell my story, on my terms." And for the first time since the whisper, I felt power shift, back to me. The following morning, sunlight spilled across the kitchen tiles like nothing had happened. But everything had. The night's echoes clung to me, the footage, the gasps, Daniel's collapse under the weight of his own words. My phone buzzed, a message from Claire. "HR called me in. They've seen your recording. Thank you." I stared at the screen. A thank you felt too small for what had cracked open, but it was something. Proof didn't just free me, it gave her ground to stand on too. I brewed coffee, sat at the table, and opened my laptop. This time, I didn't replay the whisper. I typed. A statement, not for the world yet, but for me. A document that said, I am not less. I am not a comparison. I am not disposable. By afternoon, Daniel called. Missed. Called again. Then the voicemail. "Nora, please, don't do this to us. Don't make this public. Us." That word soured in my mouth. There was no us, just me, clawing my way back to myself. I sent one reply. "You made it public when you said it out loud." Later, his sister came by. She hugged me hard, eyes fierce. "You don't owe him a stage, but if you decide to tell it loud, because women like Claire and women like you aren't footnotes." Her words lingered. That evening, I drafted a letter. Not for Daniel, not even for his family, for myself. It read, I lived a whisper meant to erase me. I turned it into an echo that carried further than he imagined. I won't hide in silence again. My story is mine now. I didn't know if I'd publish it, send it, or simply keep it. What I did know was this. Control had shifted. No longer in his smirk, his comparisons, his careless cruelty. It was in my hands, and the final act was coming. Not revenge, not spectacle, but something cleaner. A release. A week later, I walked into the same restaurant where the whisper had been born. No velvet booths this time, no long tables of colleagues, just me, a corner seat, and a notebook. I ordered tea, not wine. I wanted clarity. The city moved outside the window, people rushing, laughing, carrying their own secret battles. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like mine was crushing me, it was shaping me. I opened the notebook to a fresh page. At the top I wrote, "Echoes don't fade, they grow." Daniel had moved out 2 days earlier, his boxes stacked like regrets by the door. His mother had called once, voice heavy with shame, apologizing for the son she raised. Claire had emailed, HR had acted swiftly. She was safe. And me? I was still standing. I pressed play one last time on my phone, letting the recording whisper into my earbuds. She's better than you. The words no longer cut. They reminded me of the night I stopped being silent. I closed the file, deleted it. Not because I forgave, but because I no longer needed proof to know my worth. When I left the restaurant, the air was brisk, honest. I walked slower than usual, noticing small things. A father tying his daughter's shoe, a woman handing change to a stranger, a street musician coaxing beauty from a battered violin. Life had always been happening, even when I was drowning in whispers. Now I was part of it again. At home, I lit a single candle in the dining room, the same room where contempt had once masqueraded as intimacy. The flame flickered, steady, mine. This, I whispered to myself, is the only voice I follow now. And for the first time, I didn't hear Daniel's echo. I heard my own,